Back in 2005, no one could have imagined the release of a game that would revolutionize the video game industry and cement its place as one of the greatest games of all time. This game, Resident Evil 4, inspired countless titles that followed in its footsteps. By deviating from the formula of its predecessors and shifting genres from survival horror to action horror, Resident Evil 4 established itself as a benchmark for a complete and exceptionally well-structured game. After nearly 20 years of its release, there is a lot to talk about this game. In this video, I explain how the initial 15 minutes of Resident Evil 4 effectively introduced all the game mechanics and why it works even today.
Resident Evil 4.
Once we press start, a brief introduction will play showcasing the storyline of past games and explaining how Leon ended up in his current situation. With the next cutscene, we get to know why we are here. It perfectly sets the tone for the game and fantastically shows that this game had a motion capture level that was much higher than the standard level of that time. After the cutscene, we get to the gameplay. The game starts here, everything is new, it's totally unlike the ones before it, and there is really nothing quite like it at this point. In the Resident Evil series, before this game, there have been some ups and downs, both in the story and gameplay, but it was with this game that a significant change was made in the gameplay structure. So why there are no on-screen tutorials to guide you on aiming your weapon or moving your character, unlike the new games of this generation? Well, you were supposed to figure these things out by yourself. It wants you to learn by yourself. The developers did not treat you as if you were children. Games today are like constant reminders to use a spoon when eating your food. Once you get a little familiar with how the controls work, the first thing that catches your eye is a cabin that is not far from you. In this first scene, game draws your attention to where you need to go. You will come across the first Ganado in that area, where you will face off in a 1v1 battle to practice shooting and become more comfortable with the gunplay mechanics. After you kill the Ganado, you will most likely attempt to exit throughout the same door you came in, but it won't budge. So you have to find another way, and now game introduced the mechanic of jumping out of windows, with two options available, one downstairs and one upstairs. If you choose to go upstairs, you will find some extra ammo for your pistol, which is a very good reward for your curiosity. After exiting the cabin, you're now surrounded by 3 enemies. You can fight them or you can bypass them. Enemies drops ammo, reducing emphasis on a strict resource management. This allows for a more action-oriented and less resource-conscious play style. Unlike the previous games of this series, you had to find ammo and keep them as much as you could to avoid problems on the way, which meant that fights were not always forced and you could skip many of the game's rooms without combat. But in this game, in many rooms you have to fight with enemies. Resource management is a little bit different this time. And also in inventory we have some changes too. It's grid-based inventory with a larger capacity, allowing us to carry more items and weapons simultaneously. After this, if you want to go back and see what happened to the cops, this cuts in place. And speaking of cutscenes, before I move on, I want to add something here. There's a key element that contributes to the high replay value of this game, and that is you can skip all the cutscenes from the beginning of the game. In fact, you can complete this game without even seeing a single cutscene, which is very important nowadays. You know, we are in an era where most games are full of walking and talking sections that take away your control from your character, but this game never does that. Let's say you've played this game before and now you want to give it another go. Chances are you would want to skip a cutscene you've already seen. After all, you're here to play the game, not watch the same scene over and over again. You can save the game for the first time here. There are some boxes that you can break to get items, but you will definitely recognize that breaking them with bullets is not the right thing to do, so you use your knife. Further ahead, you can save a dog and you will encounter 2 types of traps for the first time, which you can sabotage, avoid, or use against enemies. After some fights, you will eventually reaching a door that leads you to the village. This is where the game challenges you to a big fight with lots of enemies in a larger area. You will need to apply everything you've learned in order to succeed. So what do we learn? We learn how to move, skip cutscenes, aim the gun, killing enemy, breaking through windows, work with the knife, breaking boxes for items, loot, save the game, save a dog, sabotage, pass or use traps, passing enemies, use items in the inventory, open doors, and etc. by the game itself, without on-screen or forced tutorials. And all of that just happens in 10 to 15 minutes or even less. The game created a powerful and memorable opening level for the player. leaving them both impressed and prepared for this fight. The combat loop of this game never gets repetitive. It is not a surprise that still to this day so many fans consider this game to be the best game in the Resident Evil franchise, although I have another opinion, but I respect them. So that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, comment if I have missed anything, and subscribe for more.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?